Let the words of my lips and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I'm going to share what I think a lot of y'all already know. And I think I'm also going to try to claim that there's one solution to every problem in this life, which is exceptionally bold. And I'm going to tell you what it is off the bat and switch things up from 7:45. Just show up right now on Sunday mornings. Just show up to break bread, to gather together, because you will see the world fundamentally different. I promise you that. Just commit to keep coming. One of the things that I think most of y'all know, St. Stephen's by design is somewhat different. Yeah, at least within the Episcopal tradition, we came out of that medieval Gothic architecture. And so most of y'all that have grown up in the Episcopal Church have worshiped somewhere that probably looks very different, that is filled with stained glass, maybe some stone. Colonial church architecture came in with a very simplicity to get rid of all of that vain kind of design. And so they would have clear glass windows, but then often a plain wall on the back with a cross. But St. Stephen's is different. You look out. Many of y'all have joked that if you don't like the sermon, you can just watch the squirrels dance or the dogwoods bloom. Awesome. I've got that going for me this morning. But you're looking out. You're looking at the world, you're looking at a beautiful setting. However, you might also see people walking down Overden or cars driving, life happening, people using the trail. What is in between that, between our view of the world, is the altar and the cross. It obscures the view. It changes how we see the world. Consider that. That you gather here, you gather for this gift of thanksgiving and this commitment of a meal shared together to pray, to listen to God's story, and yet our attention is always, even if we're looking at the altar, we see beyond. Changed and transformed by what we experience here. Today's gospel is exceptionally rich. There's more happening probably in this story than most stories in Scripture. Two disciples have left to travel from Jerusalem to Jericho on Sunday, on that Easter Sunday. Probably it says it's the day of the resurrection, but somehow they've already had an experience where they've met the women who encountered Jesus that morning. These are people that knew him intimately. It's not just two that have been in the crowds that have been hearing the story. They know Jesus. They've been hearing about his teachings. They have likely heard him say 2 or 3 times that what is going to happen is he's going to be handed over, he's going to suffer, he will ultimately meet his death, and then God will still raise him from the dead. He has heard the women who first met Jesus, tell him that Jesus is not in the tomb. And then when Jesus meets these 2 disciples, they can't figure out who he is. In fact, the scripture says their eyes were kept from recognizing him. They fail to see the big picture. And so they walk along, They hear the story of the faith being passed down from Moses and the prophets. They still don't have all the answers. And they're living in this kind of journey of faith, and they don't have all the answers. And then when they get to their destination, they invite Jesus in with them. And it's not just about having a meal and hospitality. I mean, look at the action in the scripture. They take bread, they bless bread, they break it, and they give it. That simple action that we do every single Sunday. We take bread, we bless, we give thanks. We break the bread and we give it. And in that action, their eyes are opened and they recognize that Christ is there in their midst. And they get the full picture. You know, one of the questions that this reading prompts is, what is it that keeps their eyes from being able to recognize Christ? Is it their grief? Is it their anger at what's happened? Is it their lack of belief? Their confusion? Their uncertainty? One of the reasons that we gather here on a Sunday morning is because we have all of those same things that keep our eyes from being able to see the manifestation of Christ. We look at another human being with anger or disappointment. We look at a situation that we can't make sense of it, and we feel it with dread. We don't know what to do with a loved one. We don't know how to care for a sibling or a child who is suffering. We don't know what to do with a marriage that is feeling challenging and stifling. We don't know what to do with a world that doesn't make any sense. Maybe some of you come for answers of how to handle those situations. I wish I had those answers. But what I do know is that when we commit to showing up and breaking bread, that we find God in the midst of our lives. And I promise you that you will see the world differently. So I'm going to give you the easiest instructions for Easter. Just show up. God will.